Hello, friends. It's Katie back with another episode of my vlog. And of course, it's time for another Cinema Club Sunday Roundup. We had another low week of movie watching this week. We've been pretty dedicated to a couple of series, so only 3 movies to review this week. The first movie that we watched was Enter the Fat Dragon. This is the 2020 movie starring Donnie Yen, not the 1978 movie starring Sammo Hung. In my research, I read that the 2020 version is supposed to be a remake of the original, but it didn't have a lot in common with the original plot-wise. Maybe it's more of like a spiritual remake, if you will. This is a funny Hong Kong kung fu cop movie starring, again, Donnie Yen, who is fantastic. If you've seen him maybe in Ip Man, you'll remember him from that. He plays as a cop. The first part of the movie is pretty fast-paced, has a bunch of pretty great fight scenes with awesome choreography. I think it's the first fight scene in the movie. It might be the second though. Takes place in a moving van, and they take full advantage of, as the van is careening around corners, the various combatants who are inside the van are being slammed one way and then the other up against the sides of the van. Donnie Yen's character is using the momentum of the van to his advantage to throw people around, throw them out the back of the van. It's a pretty great scene. All of the fight choreography in this movie is great. It's exactly what you would expect from Donnie Yen and sort of the characters that he tends to work with. And then sort of about a third of the way through the movie, his character gets put on a desk job, and he is sitting next to a snack machine, and we proceed to have a montage of him snacking from the snack machine over and over again. And then we fast forward and he's gained 100 pounds, but now it's just Donnie Yen in a fat suit. And the fat suit is pretty good. They did really good prosthetic makeup on it. He looks really good. He doesn't move like a fat man because, hello, he's not a fat man. He's an athletic guy in a fat suit. But it is still very funny to see overweight Donnie Yen battling bad guys through the rest of this movie. Unfortunately, there isn't really a reason for him to be fat in the plot. They explained it by giving him the desk job, but there's no, it feels like the only reason that he's fat in this movie is because someone at the pitch meeting was like, oh, guys, Donnie Yen in a fat suit, let's make a movie. And then they made a movie, which to me is not enough of a reason for Donnie Yen to be in the fat suit. Give me something in the writing that makes it transformative, or maybe the message is it doesn't matter if you're fat or if you're skinny or whatever, but it felt so like a layer of fat just added onto the top without a real reason behind it. It was a little bit distracting. Other than that, that's my only complaint about this movie. It's got some, cheesy computer stuff happens every once in a while. But other than that, it's great. The acting is great. The writing is pretty good. It's very funny, like I said. And of course, what we're here for in a kung fu movie isn't really the writing or the acting. It's the amazing battle sequences. And this movie is just chock full of awesome kung fu battle sequences. The aforementioned one in the moving van was pretty great. There's one later on in the movie. He travels to Japan and winds up going up against some Yakuza characters. And at one point, they're doing this battle in a business district with lots of tiny buildings that are really close together. So they're leaping from rooftop to rooftop. And then at one point going, down the walls in between the buildings and then back up the walls to hide from other characters. It's pretty great. So if you're a fan of Hong Kong kung fu films, if you're a fan of Donnie Yen, if you're a fan of comedy kung fu cop films, you will absolutely love this movie. If you don't care for skinny actor in a fat suit movies, definitely want to skip this one. But we thoroughly enjoyed it. It was super funny, super fun. I am going to have the kids watch the original Enter the Fat Dragon again from 1978 starring Sammo Hung. But again, I don't recall them as having anything in common plot-wise, but I guess we'll see when I rewatch the old one. So that's that one. The next night after that, we found a pretty interesting, I guess you'd call it an experimental action samurai movie. It's called Crazy Samurai 400 versus 1 or Crazy Samurai Musashi, depending on which title you get when you stream it. We found that and Enter the Fat Dragon on the Hayya channel on Amazon streaming. So some cool stuff in there. This movie is interesting. It is starring an actor named Tak Sakaguchi as this crazy samurai Musashi. He's got a vendetta or something against some other clan, and he's got to go have a samurai duel to the death against these other guys. But when he shows up to duel them, they've hired a ton of mercenaries. They've actually hired 300 mercenaries, and they have 100 of their own guys. So they're setting the stage for a battle where crazy samurai Musashi shows up, and he has to go hand-to-hand combat against 400 guys. And then you have the meat of this film once it's been set up, which is it's pretty unbelievable. It's a 77-minute long, single take, one shot action sequence. And this actor, Tak Sakaguchi, is amazing. His stamina is unbelievable. He is working hard, battling these other guys for 77 minutes. It's pretty unreal how hard this guy goes. And, they're pretty easy to defeat enemies because there's 400 of them. So, like one hit with the sword just sort of grazing the side of the head is enough to kill somebody. And because they're doing it in one take and they don't actually have 400 actors, the beginning part of the movie is kind of, Henry pointed out, it's like each time a guy gets killed, he falls on the ground and then kind of crawls off camera, and then the camera turns another direction, and that same guy is jumping back up to come back into the back of the crowd and be another one of the 400 enemies that this guy has to defeat. There's also not a lot of blood because, again, they're doing it in one take, and they've added blood in digitally a little bit after the fact. But for the most part, the whole thing is being sold by the actors and by the cameraman, who, of course, you never see. But in this type of thing, the actions of the cameraman are almost as important as the actions of the actors. And one of the things I like to do when I'm watching one of these one shot, one take type of things is really imagine what the setup for the camera looked like. You can imagine it's moving a lot in this movie. So you can imagine like a little, a Jeep or some type of vehicle, and that's being driven by one guy, and then the camera operator's on the back of it facing backwards. And then all of the actors are following the camera through the scenery and, playing to the camera wherever it happens to be pointing at that particular moment. So it's a very impressive feat, and it's really cool that they pulled it off, and it's really cool to watch this type of experimental film and see people, they said, okay, well, how do we do a really long extended sword battle scene that has no cuts in it? Let's see if we can do it. And they did it, and it came out pretty cool, but it doesn't make for that cool of a movie in the end. It was a bit repetitive, which it has to be with 400 combatants. And there were parts where it kind of slowed down because the main actor had to take a break. He couldn't just keep going nonstop. So there's all these parts where it's like he manages to elude the horde of guys, and then he's like dips into a barn and, gets a drink of water and takes a break for a couple of seconds. He does a lot of spitting for some reason. He's constantly putting water in his mouth and spitting it out, spitting on his own sword. Don't really know what that decision was about, but yeah, it unfortunately winds up falling a little bit flat. And I feel like if they hadn't have aimed quite so high with the 77-minute long continuous shot, if instead they had said, okay, let's try for, a 40-minute long continuous shot, they could have condensed some of the stuff that got a little repetitive in the 77-minute long version of it. And I think it would have made a tighter film and a better film, ultimately. So I would actually not recommend this film for general audiences. I would say if you are a fan of samurai films in particular, if you are a fan of experimental film, if you're a fan of one-shot films, and that's your jam, then you definitely want to see what they did with it in this one. But this is not a movie to go into just like, all right, I'm going to watch a samurai movie. It's like a very different kind of a cut of a samurai movie, if you will, which I thoroughly enjoyed. Again, as a student of film, as a photographer myself, as a wannabe cinematographer, I enjoyed it a lot. So if any of those kind of descriptions of what I got out of it tick your boxes, you should check it out because you'll like it. But again, if you're just a person who likes to watch some movies and you like action movies, this might not be the right one for you. Again, I don't want to say it's bad. It just, I think they aimed a little high and they couldn't quite hit that mark as well as they could have if they had aimed a little bit lower. But I'm always a fan of aiming high, even if you don't hit the mark. So Crazy Samurai 400 versus 1, also known as Crazy Samurai Musashi. I did note when I was doing research for this vlog that the actor Tak Sakaguchi, who plays the Crazy Samurai in this movie, has also been in several other amazing sounding movies. So I've got those added to my list, and we'll be looking for Yakuza Weapon and Versus to stream in the near future. Let me know if you guys have checked those movies out because they sound really amazing and right up our alley here at Cinema Club, but I haven't seen them yet. The third movie we watched this week is kind of a funny one that's a little out of sequence with the other two. But the kids play Fortnite and they added a Lara Croft skin to Fortnite. And I have been listening to my kids going around the house, blah, 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 Lara Croft this, Tomb Raider that, Lara Croft, Tomb Raider, blah, blah, blah. And I finally turned around and said, have you guys even watched that movie? And they were like, no. And I said, well, one of you should pick it for Cinema Club and we can watch it. So ultimately it's my fault that we sat through Lara Croft Tomb Raider last night, and I regret my decision because this is not a good movie and I'm not recommending it to anyone. It was an interesting watch. Angelina Jolie does a good job. She's a good actress. It's a little bit weird to watch a movie with Angelina Jolie putting on a fake British accent and then Daniel Craig putting on a fake American accent as her counterpart. It's a little funny there. For the most part, this movie is just bad, though. It's the writing is bad. The story is so convoluted and weird and makes no sense. There's like a big planetary conjunction that's supposed to happen where all 9 planets are going to line up in a row, which is just like, if you know anything about astronomy, you're just immediately rolling your eyes all the way around. And apparently this also happens every 5,000 years. And there's a solar eclipse with it. And the Illuminati, that's who the bad guys are in this movie, are trying to collect pieces of their precious like cosmic Illuminati triangle so they can control time and have the power of God. And Lara Croft, with instructions from like the ghost of her dead father who's like left her letters, has to find the parts of this mystical triangle thing before the Illuminati guys do, and hopefully, you know, destroy it so that they can never get the power of God and whatever. But it's just ridiculous. The plot is stupid and illogical. Lara Croft herself is portrayed as a complete unstoppable badass, which is great because she's from a video game. But I mean, like, the physics is all wrong. When she jumps from one thing to another, it's like she flips around in midair and it looks so fake and so stupid. And at first I was getting really critical of it. And then I was like, just think of it like you're watching a video game. And once I put that mindset onto it, it was fine because it was just so ridiculous and overblown. It worked if I just thought of it as a video game. But if you think of it as a movie, which it is, hello, this is a movie, is what you're watching. It's so stupid, you guys. It's just the non-existent physics, the totally outlandish writing. You know, the acting is pretty good, but the material that the actors are given to work with is not. So, you know, I don't know. It's just cheesy all the way around. And then it's like you sit through the whole movie and you get to the end and there's like a 3-minute scene where Jon Voight shows up and plays Lara Croft's dad, like the ghost of her dad, to like give her some advice in the movie. And I got to lean over and go, hey, you guys, that's Angelina Jolie's real dad. And they were like, wow. And like, that was like, I don't know if it was the most exciting part of the movie, but you guys, this movie is so stupid. That was the most exciting part of it. So if you're a huge Tomb Raider fan, you've played all the games in the franchise and you just love Lara Croft so much, and you've never seen Tomb Raider, go for it. But if you don't fit that description at all, I would just sincerely advise you to completely skip this movie. It's totally not worth your time. It's so stupid. I feel like I lost brain cells for watching it. And then the capper on everything else was after we watched the movie, Sean goes, I can't name another movie I've seen Angelina Jolie in. Like, what has she been in? And I couldn't remember the name of any of her movies either. So I actually looked it up on Wikipedia and I got her filmography out and I read it to Sean. And like, it turns out he's only even seen like one other movie she's been in. And he was like, well, why do I know who she is then if I've never seen any of her movies? And I was like, well, she's like famously like used to be married to Brad Pitt and like adopted all these, kids from third world countries and whatnot. And he goes, oh, I've seen her on the cover of all the tabloids. And I was like, yeah, that's where you see Angelina Jolie. So, I don't know. Maybe we'll have to explore some more of her movies. I do know Girl Interrupted is great. And Sean hasn't seen that one. So we'll probably watch that one at some point. But I don't know about the rest of her movies. So question to you guys, Cinema Club. Does Angelina Jolie do good movies? I think I've seen, like I said, Girl Interrupted, Sky Captain, The World of Tomorrow, and then this Tomb Raider crap. So, like I said, Girl Interrupted, that's good, but does she make good movies? I don't even know. Anyhow, you tell me. Let me know if there's an Angelina Jolie movie I should watch. Let me know what you've been watching this week, or if you have another recommendation for our Cinema Club. I'd love to hear it. I will be back in a few more days with another episode of my vlog. And like I said, we are going to be looking for those other Tak Sakaguchi movies this week. And I also realized, oh my God, Sean has never seen Tokyo Drifter. And the kids obviously haven't either. And I'm super excited to show it to him. So, look for my review of that one next week. And like I said, I'll be back in a couple days. And until then, take care, stay safe, and thanks so much for watching.